Hey everybody, Ash here with Gents, and I'm coming back at you with another fragrance review. Today we're taking a look at the new Jimmy Choo release, Jimmy Choo Man Blue. This is the newest flanker in the Jimmy Choo Man line that comes after the original Jimmy Choo Man Intense, and Jimmy Choo Man Ice. I'm not going to be going over the presentation today because I decided to buy a tester, so some of you out there are going to be very pleased to hear that. Just going to give you a breakdown of the fragrance, what I think about it, and whether it's something that you should check out or not. So let's go ahead and get into this Jimmy Choo Man Blue. Like I just said, Jimmy Choo Man Blue is the newest in the Jimmy Choo Man line. And Jimmy Choo Man is actually one of the very first reviews that I ever did. I actually think it was the second review on my channel. Jimmy Choo Man, the original, is a decent release, not super unique, but pleasant and versatile. Jimmy Choo Man Intense is a little bit of an upgrade over the original, though I never reviewed that one on this channel. And then Jimmy Choo Man Ice is actually a really nice alternative to Dior Homme Cologne. Smells really similar, only much cheaper. So if you like Dior Homme Cologne but you don't have the money to spend on a Dior, you can buy Jimmy Choo Man Ice for like $25 and get a really similar fragrance. At least last time I checked it was around $25. And that brings us to this one, Jimmy Choo Man Blue. Jimmy Choo Man Blue opens with lavender, bergamot, a touch of pepper, and ambroxan. Though in the official note breakdown they say it's gray amber or ambergris, it's really just ambroxan. Just a fancier way to say ambroxan. Jimmy Choo Man Blue opens up sweet, not really fresh. You may think that it would be a fresh fragrance just based off of the name and the bottle and everything, but this is much more of a sweet leaning fragrance than it is a fresh one. It is not the exact same, but it might kind of remind you of fragrances like Sauvage or even Azzaro Wanted off the top. Also, interestingly, the first few times that I wore this fragrance, I did not pick up clary sage at all, which is one of the notes here. But as I wore it more, I started to pick that note up kind of in the background of the opening. It's not one of the main notes here. That clary sage just kind of mixes in underneath the lavender. In the opening, Jimmy Choo Man Blue is safe, it's pleasant, it's nice smelling, but definitely not unique. It's not gonna set you apart from the crowd. As this fragrance dries down, vanilla starts to come into the mix, and it's like a slightly powdery sweet vanilla. That vanilla becomes one of the most prominent things in the entire fragrance, and it mixes with the soft sandalwood. There's also a little bit of leather here in the base, but I just wanna let you guys know that the leather note here is not what I would truly call leather. Like a lot of leather fragrances, you'll pick that up and you'll say, oh, that does smell like leather. And it has lots of different iterations, right? Leather notes can be very harsh. They can be soft. It can be like suede. It can be like a greased leather. It can be like a wet leather. It can be even a gasoline tinged leather. It comes in a lot of different forms and fashions. The leather note in Jimmy Choo Man Blue is really just nondescript. More than anything, I feel like the leather here is just used to shore up the dry down, to give it a little bit more depth and maybe a little bit more warmth. Basically, it's just used to keep the fragrance from smelling too thin in the dry down. It just pumps it up a little bit. And the dry down in Jimmy Choo Man Blue, like the opening, is pleasant, it's nice smelling, but some people would call it generic or uninspired. It is, again, not altogether unique. Through the dry down, it's essentially just a warm ambroxan with touches of sandalwood and lavender and a sweet vanilla with just touches of powder. There are also pineapple, apple, and patchouli notes here, but unfortunately, I don't really pick up those at all. They're basically imperceptible to me, which is really a bummer, because if there was a really fresh, ripe, juicy pineapple or a semi-sour green apple note in here, that could really help elevate this fragrance to the next level. It could really give the fragrance something that catches your attention. Unfortunately, there's nothing here that really does capture my attention. Now, Jimmy Choo Man Blue for sure is not a fragrance that's ever gonna have people saying, oh, you don't smell good or you smell bad. That should never happen with this fragrance. But Jimmy Choo Man Blue is not really unique, and to me, it's not really something that captures the imagination or really reels you in. Truth be told, the first time that I sprayed on Jimmy Choo Man Blue, it was at a Sephora, and it was during a day that I was testing a bunch of new releases that I hadn't smelled yet. That day I smelled the one gray, Polo Ultra Blue, Y Eau de Parfum, the new John Varvatos Nick Jonas fragrance. I actually went through a bunch of them that day, and the one that I thought was the absolute worst, if you asked me that day, just going off of initial impressions of all the things I smelled, I would have told you hands down, Jimmy Choo Man Blue was the worst of the bunch. I immediately wrote it off as complete trash. It reminded me of a cheap Sauvage, Versace Eros, Armani Code blend or hybrid. Like if those fragrances had a baby, it would be Jimmy Choo Man Blue, only cheaper. At that moment in time, I legitimately thought that this might be one of the absolute worst releases of 2018. Now I will tell you guys, after spending time with this and giving it multiple wearings now that I own it, it's not as bad as I originally thought. I'm still not blown away, it's just not complete trash. And it still does kind of remind me of a lot of different fragrances. Now I'm not saying Jimmy Choo Man Blue is an exact clone or an attempted clone of another fragrance. For example, Jimmy Choo Man Ice you could say is 80% similar to Dior Homme Cologne. Jimmy Choo Man Blue is not 80% similar to anything else out there, but I would say it is 30 to 40% similar to a ton of things out there. It's almost just like an amalgamation or a combination of all of those popular men's fragrances over the last couple of years. Like if you tried to take every single one of them and put them together and blend them all up, you might end up with something like this, where it does smell pleasant, it does smell nice, it is a potential compliment getter, but there's literally nothing unique about it. I've also been having my wife check this one out with me, giving me some of her thoughts and her notes on it, and just really condensing that down for you. She likes the opening more than the dry down. She says they're both pleasant, the opening and dry down. Says they both smell very nice, but in her words, it does smell basic, and it smells like something she smelled in 20 other fragrances. So she kind of just echoes my thoughts and feelings on this one. So what I'm trying to tell you guys here is it does smell nice. It smells pleasant. It's definitely a people-pleasing type of fragrance. But of all those people-pleasing fragrances out there, it's probably one of the most forgettable. If later on today I passed by somebody and they were wearing Jimmy Choo Blue, probably wouldn't be able to tell you that it's Jimmy Choo Man Blue. I would almost think, oh, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be that. Even though I've been wearing this one and I've been testing this one, it just doesn't stick. There's nothing about this that really grabs your attention. And there are so many mass appealing people-pleasing fragrances out there nowadays, and a lot of them are in blue bottles. I feel like you'd be better served by 80% of those than you would this one. Performance on this one for me is completely average. Longevity in the 6-hour range, projection best in the first hour or so. Then it starts to sit a little bit closer to your skin, but you still do have a soft sillage cloud around you as you move around. It's not a beastly performer, but it's not terrible either. Personally, I think that this one is better suited for spring and fall, where it's on the sweeter side of things, not so much the fresh side of things. You'd probably have better options in summertime. But really, if you do like Jimmy Choo Man Blue and you want to wear it in the summer, go for it. Same with winter, just wear a few more sprays if it's really cold out. To me, that's more of a casual or date night fragrance. You could pull that off in other situations. You could potentially wear that to the office. Just be aware, again, that it is a sweeter type fragrance than it is a fresh and clean type fragrance. As of this video, this size bottle, 100 milliliters, is going for about $45 on discounters. I did notice that Fragrance X has a 30 milliliter size, which is 1 ounce, for about $25. Of course, that's not as good a value in terms of price per milliliter, but if you're wanting this fragrance on the cheap, that's probably your best bet as of right now. And like I said earlier, this is available in Sephora and pretty much any decent store that carries fragrances in America at this point. So this one's gonna be pretty easy to test out if you do want to test it out. The bottle is the same as all the others in the Jimmy Choo Man line. It looks nice, it looks sleek, it looks modern. And the atomizers on the Jimmy Choo bottles are actually really good. I'll give you a test spray here so you can see what I'm talking about. Maybe not quite a Christian Dior atomizer, but it's not far off. So just to wrap this up, Jimmy Choo Man Blue, pleasant, yes. Nice smelling, also yes. People pleasing, compliment getting, yes. Unique, no. And does it capture your attention? Not really. Ultimately, I think that this is just going to be another forgettable release. One of those ones that maybe gets talked about for a very brief amount of time and then gets forgotten. If you've smelled this one, let me know in the comments what you think about it. Let me know if you think it's good or bad or somewhere in between. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys again next time.